Hey everyone, Abhishek here. I'm back with another video, and this time we are talking about NVIM 2K. Specifically, these two PRs about one about integrating Snacks.nvim, another one about replacing CMP with Blink. And as you can see on this particular system, I'm on a much older commit. The reason I kept it so is that I can show you the before and after quickly. So right now you can see I have around 79 installed plugins, and I have total 82 plugins in my spec file, in my lazy spec file. So what I'm going to do is take a quick pull, show you all of the plugins that were removed, and then we'll do a quick walkthrough of the configurations and all of the things that we had to do and some new things that we got into NVIM 2K thanks to these two plugins. And the reason I'm doing this is because, as you can see with Snacks.nvim, I got to remove a bunch of plugins which were super lightweight and didn't really need too much of a configuration, didn't really uh, need their own separate plugins. I was really glad to have something like this, and kudos to Folky for creating it. And with Blink, I tested it out first on a beta branch, and then it was much faster when I tested it out. And then it also led me to remove Wilder, which was a plugin that I liked a lot, but it added a bunch of dependencies, so I was not a fan of that. Um, all right, so and yeah, I've been talking about these on Twitter, these changes, so these PRs and all. So if you wanna stay updated, feel free to add me there. I post in between about things that I'm doing on the open source side. Alright, so with that, let me take a pull. Okay, now I'll open NVIM, and as you can see, I have 3 installed plugins and I have around 18 plugins to clean. So we just by adding these 3 plugins, we were able to delete 18 other plugins. A bunch of them were CMP sources. Some of them were not directly related, like telescope manufacture, telescope symbols. These were done during me going through some of TJ's videos. TJ is doing a great job with Advent of NVIM. So if you haven't taken a look, I'll highly recommend that you watch it. So yeah, some of the things are also from there. So now let me go ahead and first of all clean things up, and I'll do a quick sync. I might skip the sync part while editing if it takes too long. Alright, looks like it didn't take too long, and so we came down from I think it was 82 total plugins to now 65. So we got rid of 75, sorry, 17 plugins. Okay, so this is what the new dashboard looks like. It doesn't show me the current day, but that's not a big deal. It has all of the key bindings that I need, and then all of the recent files, recent projects that I've been working on this particular system. And one thing I like here is the numbers being used for recent files and projects, because on dashboard, the older plugin, they were coming up as alphabets, so they were sometimes conflicting with my which key bindings. Anyhow, so let me switch to the commits here. Right, as you can see, the first thing that we did was replace dashboard with snacks.dashboard. And if you aren't aware, snacks is something that Folky created. Yeah, this is the Snacksnvim repository, and all of the plugins have really detailed readmes, and you can also take a look at the code, but they have fairly decent amount of information telling you how to configure them. So what I'll be doing is just showing you all of the plugins that I enabled, all of the ones that I did not. I enabled most of them, but let's go through them one by one. Um, so let me open up Snacks. Lua. Yeah. Alright. The notification that you saw was from CMP, and it was using the new Notify plugin from Snacks.notify, I believe. So let's go in sequence. First of all, we have Animate. This is something that I believe is used by other plugins. Not really something that I configure directly other than the duration. Then we have Big File. Looks like we have a incorrect comment here. Yeah. So what this big file does is it will uh, disable some of the extensions, some of the plugins on larger files. It will show a notification that hey, you are opening a larger file. Uh, so it's a very simple plugin. Then you have buff delete, and what that does is like if you have multiple buffers open, you delete them. It will maintain the window configuration that you have currently on Neovim. Let me go ahead and hide demux for now. Alright, then we come to something that I configured a little bit, dashboard. So the dashboard that you saw just a few minutes back, this is the configuration for it. You can add as many sections as you want. You can add different sort of key bindings, and I'm using my configured icons library. Yeah, if you see, these are the configured icons that I have in icons.lua and lib. So this is a dashboard. uh, it's replacing dashboard.nvim, which was pretty good, no complaints, but it's just that with Snacks I'm getting it, so why have two plugins? Then debug, this provides some useful APIs that you can use while developing plugins. That's why I added it. Dim is a nice one. I think I have added it too. Yeah. So what this does is it gives me context aware uh, highlighting. So if you see the context that I move to, the scope that I move to, it only keeps that highlighted. It disables highlighting for everything else, which is handy for me. Then there's Git. It gives a couple of useful plugins. Let me show you. So yeah, Git. It does give you a one with blame, and then also getting root. Although I have one for blame, I use this. I think it's from Git Science. Okay. Next we have Git Browse. Some of the functionality here is also present in OctoHub. I might add some more to OctoHub as well, and then I might disable it, but all it essentially does is let you open particular commits and your repository, etc. on the browser. Indent is a nice one. I really like this because the old plugin that I used to use, Indent Line, it was a bit slow on larger files. It used to slow down NVim by a lot. So indent is a nice one. You can configure what kind of character you want to use for your indentation, which is whether this particular line that you're seeing, this red highlighted line, that's from indent, snacks.indent. This is how I have configured it. The highlight groups I have not configured so far, but I might do that in future. Then we have input, which is the input pop-up, the text box that comes up. This is from snacks.input. You can configure the title, you can configure how you want to show it. Uh, and then we have LazyGit. Although I always have had LazyGit integrated with Control G, and then previously I also had it on Leader GG, but now I've moved Leader GG to this The good thing about this is it uses NVIM remote to edit the files that you edit from here. Then notifier, it's a notification plugin. Nothing too complicated about that. The configuration is a bit in depth because I wanted my notifications to look a certain way. So now if I did vim dot notify, and the completion that you see on the command line, this is coming from Blink now. So now let me call, yeah, see, this is how the notifications would look. I have went with the compact style. You can configure your own window styles. You can do a couple of fancy things there. And this is again notify. Profiler is useful one if you are working on plugins, or if you are trying to improve your load times. I think it's most useful when you're writing some heavier plugins. Quick file again, when you're working on larger files, it will disable a couple of things before you open Neovim. So it makes the process a bit faster. It makes Neovim snappier. Rename again. So what it does is it hooks up to NVim tree. Yeah. So here, if you see, I have snacks integrated, and what it does whenever I'm calling rename, it calls snacks.rename, and what that does is it uses LSP to provide renaming of that file in other places if I'm using it. Then we have scope, which provides some text object capabilities. It has jump capabilities, so I could jump to different areas in the scope. As you can see, I did make some changes to my text objects configuration, trying to make both of them play well with each other. So that's what I did with scope. Scratch is a nice one. So with Scratch, what you can do is create Scratch buffers, and as you can see this, if I hit enter, it will actually run this code. Since I'm zoomed in, it's not visible right now, but this is what it looks like. I can source the buffer, I can execute the buffer. You see the keyboard shortcuts at the bottom, and one cool thing that I was able to do is integrate this directly with sniprun. So like, let's say if I had a Ruby file open, then I opened up a Scratch, and then I just did puts hello, right? And if I ran it, you could see that this execute buffer, this is now hooked into sniprun, and then no matter what kind of file I open, if sniprun supports it, I can execute it and then see the output directly. And this is the window configuration that I had to do, and this is where I added the command to execute sniprun on enter. Scroll is one that provides smooth scrolling animations. So like if you do GG instead of jumping directly, it will add a nice animation, which I'm not a fan of, so I've disabled it. Status column is a nice one. So like, let's say if I add something here, you can see that I can now see the git stuff on the right of the numbers, and I added a mark. I can see that on the left, right? So you can configure that with status column, otherwise they always show up on the left. It does increase a little bit of horizontal space taken by the status column, but I find it useful, so I've kept it enabled. Terminal is something that I just rely on Neovim for. I find it better suited for my workflow, but it just improves some things in the default Neovim terminals. If you want, you can use it. Toggle is one that you can integrate with which key for things like Zoom and Zen, but I did not find it that useful, so I have kept it disabled for now. Window lets you work with the APIs if you want to create some floating windows, some custom windows. So that's why I have kept it enabled. Words, I did not need it because LSP Saga does most of this for me, so that's why it's disabled for me. And then finally I think we have Zen, which is this. It will hide everything else. It integrates with Zoom, and then it will give you this nice way to edit files. It's like a distraction free mode for your editor. So yeah, I think that was all. Let's see on the PR if I missed anything. You can find all of the files on this PR. There were a couple of key bindings. Let's see. We added one for detailed blame, lazy git log with GL, which is a nice one. So it looks like this. All it does, it takes this particular area and it creates a pop-up window out of that. Let's see, git browse. So these are the ones for Scratch. What else? Packages. I've added profiler. And then here I've added for Zen and Zoom. Yeah, those were all of the key bindings. In terms of integrations with other files, as I mentioned, I integrated it with Sniprun. So yeah, I had to change Sniprun's default display to API, and then I wrote this little API listener to make sure that the Sniprun output gets directly piped to vim.notify, which then gets picked up by snacks.notify, and then you saw the outputs there. Lua. So these were all of the plugins that got deleted. Snacks.nvim was added, and a bunch of things were removed. In terms of integrations, git signs, changed a couple of key bindings. In Vim tree, we added the rename capability. And this is which key. It's a bunch of changes on which key configurations, the key bindings we already looked at. And then if you see under the UI, we deleted configurations for a bunch of things. So Twilight, Zen Mode, Rainbow, Notify, Indent Line, Dashboard, all of these things were deleted and cleaned up. And next we'll look at Blink.cmp, which is a new completion plugin, and it's really fast. You might have already seen me trigger it while working. So let me start with opening this, and this is my Blink.cmp configuration. Things that I have configured are the key maps. I am using the enter preset. This is what Blink.cmp looks like for me. These are the key bindings as I mentioned. For completion selection, I'm using auto insert. For menu, I changed it to use rounded borders. For the parent stuff, I'm using the normal node fonts. These are the sources I have configured. I had to configure Copilot and Lazy Dev on top. You can find the configurations for those right here. Although I do not use Copilot completions a lot, I like Copilot chat more, but I still have it just in case if I'm writing some boilerplate, then Copilot is kind of useful. This is the configuration for Lazy Dev. And then I had to configure it with my LFP. So here, if you see, yeah, so very simple change. Earlier, if I could show you from this PR, yeah. So earlier I was loading the capabilities from CMP LSP, and now I'm just directly loading it from Blink. In terms of other integrations, I removed CMP integrations from AutoPair. The CMP configs entirely had to go because I no longer needed them. I changed a couple of things on Copilot. The Copilot CMP thing was not needed. and I got rid of Wilder as well. You can take a look at these files and these PRs to set things up for yourself as well. I'll be adding these two in the description. And again, thanks a lot for watching. Hope you have a good time during the holidays, and I'll see you in the new year. Bye bye.